Hello, I am here with the wonderful Ruby Bailey, our new editor-in-chief. Tell us what drew you to Illinois Answers and the Better Government Association.
Oh, certainly. So obviously the opportunity to come to a city like Chicago where the journalism is bar none among the best literally in the world. But the BGA and Illinois Answers holds a very special place for me because of the kind of journalism that they do. Solutions journalism is a form of journalism that is response and solution focused. So instead of focusing on problems, which we do very well in journalism, we will tell you what the problems are, as we should, right? It's part of our mandate, part of our watchdog function. Solutions journalism says, let's take a really good, rigorous look at potential responses to those problems. So there may be some systemic issues that we already know exist. What are some of the responses that have been put into place in other places? And then it looks at how those responses have worked. What's the evidence for that? What are some of the limitations around that particular response, and what are some of the insights? It really, when done really well, allows people to have the information they need to empower their own communities. And so I really feel like for us, turning into a solutions-focused newsroom will be one of the most impactful things that we can do.
I know you recently returned from the Night Media Forum.
Yes.
Any insights, takeaways, things you want to share, what you got from that?
Certainly. So it was in Miami this year, and it was my first. Lots of excitement about the possibilities and funding and the kind of work that nonprofit media companies all across the country are doing, and our willingness and desire to collaborate, to support one another. Those were two very strong takeaways from me.
Cool. What does collaboration look like for Illinois Answers going forward?
Oh my goodness, we have more than 100, I believe, media outlets within the city of Chicago, all doing fantastic work. So for us, it's to figure out where we might be able to partner and how we might be able to partner to help them amplify their voices and to give our audiences, additional journalism that we might not otherwise be able to give.
If you're looking to partner, definitely reach out
Please
to
do.
us. We've talked about solutions journalism,
Yes.
We've talked about Chicago and what brought you here. What are you most excited about just looking at the next 90 days? Like what is like something top of mind that you think is really important to get off the ground now?
For me, it would be some of our investigations. We've got a new series coming on responses to flooding. That will be very impactful for our audiences because of the sheer amount of flooding and where the money goes to remediate it and where it doesn't. So for me, that's one of the biggest projects that we've got coming up, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited to see get off the ground.
Cool. And just out of curiosity, if you look back 10 years ago, was this title editor-in-chief something that you've always strived to have? How just tell us a little bit more about what got you here.
Oh, certainly. So editor-in-chief was not necessarily a title that I was looking for, although I probably have functioned in the role before as executive editor. But I've always been a journalist. I've always been a reporter's journalist. So I was a reporter for about 15 years or so before I became an editor. So Detroit, Washington, D.C., overseas to cover the war in Iraq, some of the larger national events, Timothy McVeigh's execution, some things from the 20th century, which is a long time ago. But I've always loved journalism, always been a reporter. Becoming an editor was just my way of, I hoped, giving back, helping to reporters to kind of have the kinds of opportunities, access, and mentorship that I had. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you're talking about mentorship. So the last question I have for you, any young journalist or reporter who's watching who someday might want to do what you're doing or be an editor, what advice would you have to someone who's early in their career?
Stay focused, stay curious, be nosy about things, and go talk to your bosses a lot. Like just go randomly knock on doors and say, hey, so what are you doing? What are you up to? Seek out mentorship, and then seek out what I call sponsorship. Someone who will take you into those spaces and not just make the introductions for you, but when it comes time to make the decisions about who gets to do what, someone sponsoring your career. Those are probably the most important things that have happened, luckily for me.
Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.